I know that the ones who love us will miss us.
For over 40 years, Keanu Reeves has been the soul of Hollywood. He is the man who transformed personal tragedy into public grace and humility into the stuff of legend. Just the sound of his name inspires an immediate wave of affection. His presence can warm the coldest room. But now, at 61, the whispers from his closest confidants are revealing a profound, heartbreaking truth. The man who never chased fame, who gave everything to his craft and to others, is finally ready to walk away for good. Behind that iconic, gentle smile is a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. It's the immense weight of decades spent not just acting, but surviving an endless cycle of loss, pain, and heartbreak, all while maintaining the illusion of being unbreakable. What has pushed him to this silent breaking point isn't merely the story of an actor's retirement. It's the powerful, devastating conclusion to a life journey that began long before Hollywood ever knew his name. Keanu Charles Reeves came into the world on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, Lebanon, a city already in turmoil. It was a chaotic beginning that tragically foreshadowed the turbulence of his life. His father, Samuel Nan Reeves, Jr., was a Hawaiian geologist of mixed heritage. His mother, Patricia Taylor, a young English costume designer, searching for a stability she would never find. When Keanu was just 2, the marriage shattered under the pressure of Samuel's addiction and erratic behavior. Patricia immediately fled, gathering her infant son and launching into a frantic, rootless life, from Beirut to Sydney, then New York, and finally settling temporarily in Toronto. She was desperately seeking a safe harbor, but safety was an illusion. Each move meant new schools, new houses, and new fleeting relationships. For Keanu and his younger sister, Kim, childhood was a never-ending series of goodbyes. They learned the bitter lesson that nothing stayed still long enough to ever be called home. Samuel drifted deeper into darkness, arrested on drug charges in the 1970s before disappearing entirely when Keanu was 13. Their final unspoken farewell happened in Hawaii. Father and son sat under a night sky full of stars before Samuel simply drove him to the airport. Keanu later recalled that moment as if the earth had swallowed his father whole. The profound absence created a void that no amount of success would ever fill. "We believed our lives would be better if we had our father," he whispered years later. But he never came back. Patricia's pursuit of stability led to a tumultuous carousel of husbands. Broadway director Paul Aaron, rock promoter Robert Miller, and salon owner Jack Bond. They all briefly appeared, then vanished. While these marriages brought him half-sisters, Kim remained his absolute constant. For Keanu, she was the one sacred person who made the concept of family real. Together, they navigated a nomadic life that offered little comfort. School was no refuge either. Dyslexia made the simple act of reading torturous, turning every page into a battlefield of confused letters and words. He constantly fell behind, feeling alienated, not for a lack of intellect, but because his mind and the written word simply refused to connect. Teachers often dismissed him as disruptive, misinterpreting curiosity as outright defiance. "I questioned everything too much," he remembered. "It always got me in trouble." Yet beneath that restlessness was a formidable mind that simply refused to accept simple, surface-level answers. Amid the churning chaos, only one place offered a sense of belonging: the ice rink. As a committed hockey goalkeeper, Keanu earned the fierce nickname, The Wall. His intense focus and lightning reflexes made him a natural, and for a short time, he believed the sport might be his salvation. He dreamed of playing professionally for the Canadian Olympic team. But fate intervened. A brutal ankle injury at 15 violently ended that dream, hitting him like another devastating abandonment. Instead of collapsing, the young man adapted. Acting became his next necessary escape. It wasn't born out of lofty ambition, but out of a desperate need. In the act of pretending to be someone else, he found temporary blessed peace from a reality that had never shown him kindness. By age 17, Keanu had dropped out of school, ready to chase the uncertain path of performance. He once confessed that acting felt like home because it allowed him to funnel all the terrifying chaos and loneliness he could never explain. That wounded boy, shaped by constant loss and displacement, was unknowingly preparing for the iconic roles that would define him, a man who could carry pain with dignity and endure heartbreak without becoming bitter. The foundation of Keanu Reeves's quiet strength was forged not in privilege or ease, but in the fires of survival. By the early 1980s, Keanu Reeves left his turbulent childhood behind to chase a dream that was barely a flicker. In 1984, he landed a minor role in the Canadian TV show Hanging In. It paid almost nothing, but it gave him the one thing he desperately craved: purpose. When the cameras rolled, he was no longer the lost boy from Toronto. He was someone else entirely. Acting had become his only way to make sense of the world. A year later, he packed his beat-up 1969 Volvo, affectionately nicknamed Dumpy, and drove from Canada straight to Los Angeles. He had no agent, no real plan, and just enough money for gas. All he carried was a fragile belief in himself. Hollywood did not roll out the red carpet. Casting directors told him his name was simply too strange, too exotic. "You'll never make it with a name like Keanu," one notoriously told him. They offered alternatives: Chuck Spadina or Casey Reeves. He briefly tried one, then fiercely rejected it. "It didn't feel like me," he decided. Keeping his real name became his first act of defiance against the industry. Slowly, his authentic nature began to win people over, even when his skills were still raw. 1986's River's Edge changed the game. Playing a profoundly disillusioned teen, Keanu delivered a hauntingly real performance that forced critics to notice him. They saw a rare, powerful vulnerability, but the industry didn't know how to categorize him. After River's Edge, he was cast in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The delightfully goofy comedy was a global smash, turning him into a pop culture sensation overnight. To millions, he became Ted, the spaced-out surfer-philosopher. The fame was instant, but for Keanu, it was confusing and limiting. He genuinely feared he'd never escape that goofy image. "People thought I was that guy," he later said, even directors. For years, studios pigeonholed him in only comedic or teenage parts, refusing to see the quiet, controlled intensity beneath the surface. In 1991, Point Break shattered that mold. As the undercover FBI agent Johnny Utah, Keanu channeled his natural athleticism and emotional depth. The film's mix of high-octane action and subtle spirituality deeply resonated with him. His co-star Patrick Swayze once remarked that Keanu wasn't acting, he was searching, and the audience connected to that quest. He insisted on performing almost all of his own punishing stunts, training with real agents, and nearly drowning during the surf scenes. That same year, he delivered a raw, poetic performance in Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho, alongside River Phoenix. The intense, beautiful friendship that blossomed between Keanu and River would become one of the most significant, cherished relationships of his life. Then came 1994's Speed, the film that rocketed him to full-fledged Hollywood superstardom. As Jack Traven, the officer attempting to save passengers on a runaway bus, Keanu embodied a palpable mix of courage and steely control, qualities the public desperately wanted to believe in. The movie grossed over $350 million worldwide. Yet, when offered a staggering $11 million to return for Speed 2: Cruise Control, he did the unthinkable. He said no. "I just didn't like the script," he stated simply. In an industry built entirely on greed, that decision was a seismic shock. He chose integrity over wealth, his reputation over easy comfort. 3 years later, the devil's advocate tested his principles again. He took a major pay cut so that Al Pacino could be cast. The film was a massive critical and commercial hit, earning Keanu praise for his emotional restraint. He was no longer just the action hero. He was an actor capable of exploring loss, temptation, and deep morality. Then, in 1999, came The Matrix, and the world changed forever. The sheer physicality of the production almost destroyed him. Months before filming, he underwent spinal surgery stemming from years of motorcycle accidents. Doctors gave stern warnings to take it easy, but Keanu refused to quit. He dove into relentless kung fu training, performed complex fight sequences while in agony, and wore a neck brace cleverly hidden beneath his costume. When the film premiered, his famous stoicism was often actually a veneer for real, crippling suffering. The Matrix franchise went on to earn $466 million and redefined cinema, but Keanu's response was characteristically humble. Quiet gratitude, never celebration. He famously gave millions of dollars from his paycheck to the special effects and stunt teams, simply saying they deserved it more. Fame, money, and recognition never impressed this man. Only genuine human honesty did. And yet, even as Hollywood declared him a superstar, Keanu felt more like a stranger than a success. Behind every blockbuster role was the same quiet truth. He wasn't chasing fame. He was desperately trying to fill the silence left by everything he had lost. In 1998, Keanu found a private kind of solace. He met actress Jennifer Syme at a party. She was radiant, grounded, and shared his quiet, introspective temperament. They fell deeply in love, building a world far away from the blinding Hollywood glare. In late 1999, Jennifer was pregnant with their daughter, Ava. Tragically, the child was stillborn. The sheer magnitude of the loss shattered them both. Keanu spiraled into a deep silence, refusing interviews and disappearing from the public eye. He was frequently spotted sitting alone for hours on park benches, simply staring into space. Just as he began the agonizing process of recovery, another catastrophic blow landed. On April 2, 2001, Jennifer was killed in a car crash in Los Angeles. She was only 28. Friends said Keanu didn't scream or openly cry. He simply froze. At her funeral, he carried her coffin with an expression so vacant, so empty, that even the paparazzi instinctively lowered their cameras. Those who knew him profoundly believed a vital part of him died that day. When he finally spoke about it years later, he uttered a quiet line that became the unofficial philosophy of his life. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. It was not a quote. It was a searing wound given words. Following that, he never remarried, never had children, and kept his private life ruthlessly guarded. His profound, enduring grief became his companion. Every role he took afterward seemed to reflect that internal burden: Neo's isolation, John Wick's world-weary pain, Constantine's crushing weariness. Each character was a mirror of his own battle-scarred soul. Hollywood dismissed him as mysterious, but the truth was far simpler. He was a man quietly learning to live with his ghosts. Keanu's fundamental response to suffering was never anger. It was empathy. In 1991, his younger sister, Kim, was diagnosed with leukemia. For a decade, he became her rock. He sold his home to cover her staggering medical bills and spent countless nights in cold hospital rooms, reading to her through waves of pain and exhaustion. When she finally recovered, he secretly founded a private cancer foundation, deliberately keeping his name off the organization to help children's hospitals and fund cancer research. Later, it was revealed he had donated over $30 million from his Matrix earnings to the medical and special effects teams. "It's not about me," he always insisted. "It's about helping." His generosity has become the stuff of legend. He quietly gifted expensive motorcycles to his stunt team, shared his profits with costume designers, and always chose to eat meals with the crew rather than isolating himself in a luxurious trailer. In public, fans have seen him give up his subway seat to strangers. When a group of stranded travelers recognized him at an airport, he organized their rides and shared snacks during the long bus trip that followed. He never seeks recognition for these acts. He simply believes in human decency. But behind the kindness, his friends noticed a profound exhaustion setting in. Every tragedy he had internalized and transformed into compassion had also drained his reserves. His body bears the physical scars of years of punishing stunts, and his heart carries the invisible bruises of a lifetime of grief. By his late 50s, Keanu had begun a silent withdrawal, choosing solitude over the spotlight's glare. What the world praised as humility was perhaps also a necessary act of self-preservation. In 2014, John Wick exploded onto the scene, giving Keanu a new, powerful identity, the aging, heartbroken assassin seeking a dark form of redemption. The irony was palpable. The role was a terrifyingly accurate mirror of his own life. Keanu trained relentlessly for months, mastering jiu-jitsu and gun combat until his hands bled. He performed virtually all his own stunts, enduring fractured ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and a fractured knee. By the time John Wick Chapter 4 premiered in 2023, he was 58, still performing sequences that would utterly break men half his age. During one dangerous scene in Berlin, his kneecap shattered. After immediate surgery, he returned to filming a mere 3 days later. Fans admired his commitment, unaware that every movement was now accompanied by real, grinding pain. After decades of pouring his entire self into his craft, Keanu began to question how much he truly had left to give. "We come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing," he remarked softly in a 2024 interview. "What matters is what we do in between." At the time, most assumed he was simply being philosophical. Insiders now confirm it was his quiet, public farewell. Following John Wick 4, he turned down several massive film offers. "I've said what I needed to say through my characters," he reportedly confided to a producer. "Maybe it's finally time to live quietly." By 2025, he had retreated almost completely from public view. No premieres, no demanding interviews, no lucrative endorsements. Friends describe him now as tired, but deeply serene. After a lifetime spent fighting for others on screen and off, he is finally choosing the profound peace for himself. Today, Keanu Reeves lives in a tranquil, unassuming home tucked into the Hollywood Hills, miles away from the defining chaos of his past. The house, built in the late 1980s, is a mirror of his spirit. Minimal, open to natural light, and profoundly peaceful. He spends his days immersed in reading, writing, and tending to the quiet garden he maintains himself. He shares this deeply private life with Alexandra Grant, the artist who began as his collaborator in 2011 and slowly, beautifully became his partner and closest confidant. They cook, they create, they host a few dear friends, but mostly they simply enjoy the silence. To those who have visited, the space feels sacred, a true retreat where he can finally, genuinely breathe. Physically, Keanu carries the indelible marks of his punishing journey. His knees ache, his back stiffens, and his voice carries the weighted echo of endurance. Yet, there is an absolute peace in his demeanor. He no longer measures life by applause or awards, but by still, meaningful moments. He continues to quietly fund hospitals, support new artists, and travel without any entourage. His immense fortune is not used for flaunting, but for healing. When fans ask if he will ever return to the cinema, he offers a gentle smile and replies, "Maybe, if it feels right." For now, he chooses stillness over the spotlight. For the millions who grew up watching him bend reality as Neo and fight for the idea of love as John Wick, his absence feels like a profound loss. But perhaps this is not an ending. Perhaps this is the first time Keanu Reeves is truly, fully living for himself, free from the cameras, the crushing expectations, and the endless weight of pain. The man who spent a lifetime saving others on screen has finally, quietly, saved his own soul. Keanu Reeves has given the world absolutely everything he had: his art, his heart, and his singular quiet strength. If this truly is his final, peaceful goodbye, then it is the deeply deserved ending of Hollywood's most humble legend. Do you think Keanu should rest, or could you be persuaded to watch one final, powerful film from him? Share your thoughts below, and if his incredible story touched your heart, hit the like button and leave a comment to honor his legacy.